Welcome to Montana Voices, Episode 9. I know I did refer to this Episode 8 as Episode 9, Country Road, but we can count over here at Montana Voices.
It's great to be here. It's great to be able to count as well.
Unfortunately, we are missing our guest host. We invited Chris back, but it sounds like he had some technical or family difficulties, and he's not able to join us today. So when you listen to this, Chris, we send our condolences for whatever strife you're currently experiencing.
Indeed. I would also like to extend my personal thanks as well for filling in for me last time, Chris. I do appreciate it. Given the circumstances, it just made more sense to do a local show there with you, with Jim direct. So either way, unfortunately, you couldn't be here. Looking forward to you coming back in the future at some point.
Well, you want to go through our orders of business here?
Absolutely. Everyone, if you would like to get to our show at any point in time to listen to for free, you can hit us at montanavoicespodcast.com. If you would like to hit us with a line, any kind of comments, concerns to reach out to us with, it's going to be at montanavoices@gmail.com for our email. If you would like to reach out to us at Twitter, that would be at Montana_voices. Our Facebook will be at Montana Voices Podcast. Our Twitch, which I'm pretty excited about. I should have something up and rolling for that hopefully within the week here. That one will be reachable at twitch.tv/Montana Voices. And then just recently we've had the addition of a YouTube account for all of our accounts as well. Montana Voices Podcast is searchable on there. You can find us.
And we have a number of our episodes already up there with the finest B-roll. I think we had bees in there. We had some driving in rural Montana footage in there. And this time we're going with snow footage, so you'll have to tune in for that. Quick note on the Montana Voices on YouTube. Videos on that are probably at least a day behind schedule, so if you want the most recent Montana Voices podcast released, that's going to be at montanavoicespodcast.com. So because we do this in the evening and rendering an hour video takes forever, and then uploading some 20 gigs of video also takes a good amount of time, so I'll probably leave it to render at night and won't be ready to upload it until I get back from work the following day.
Indeed.
Some always technical limitations, but let's go back through our corrections. We had a few comments come through. We definitely seeing some more activity here, as far as comments on our Facebook page and links that were shared from our Facebook page. I'm told that we spent the last episode, Country Road, we discussed Great Falls and probably more length than we should have, or more length than it deserves. We got called out, and we should not call Great Falls a retirement town, because I'm told it's just as boring for the retirees there. So
everyone wants to move to Florida no matter what. Yeah, you know, I wasn't there, man. So I if I had been there, I probably would have spent a little bit more time trashing Missoula as well. However, it just didn't work out that way. So, however, I would like to point out, though, the whole point of that episode, I believe, was Great Falls versus Missoula, just because you guys had been in each town, respectively. So, you know, with that in mind, I would expect at least 50% of the show to be dedicated to Great Falls, you'd think.
You'd think, and I expected Chris to trash talk Missoula a little bit more, because he is a former Missoulian and does not like the politics or most of the people here. Maybe we shouldn't say that or put him on the spot, but he definitely doesn't like the politics of Missoula. And so I expected more, but that sort of brings me into our next topic. Another comment that we got is that to make it more interesting, that we need to disagree more. I'm told that they're tired of hearing us me say a topic and then you saying, "Why? I agree, Jim." But
well, you know, I agree with you there, Jim. I think that we agree too much. No, well, yeah, I can't help it that we just happen to have like-minded views on that, but that was the whole intent of trying to get Chris on the show a couple more times, so we would have somebody to come on and tell us why we're wrong and stick to it. So, you know, as time comes on, I think people will see that we do have differing opinions on quite a few different topics. One in point I would like to bring up there is cyclists within the state on state roads. Well, we won't get too far into it, but it's a topic we're very staunchly opposed on.
Very staunchly, because one of us is a cyclist and also a reasonable person. So,
ooh, Hitting low, hitting low.
Yeah, hitting there. Well, having a disagreement or a counterpoint. Wasn't that the show? It was Carlson Tucker with that other guy that Jon Stewart went on the show, and basically they tanked it. It was counterpoint, just two guys just disagreeing and sort of yelling at each other for a while.
Was it Jon Stewart?
It was Jon Stewart.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Tucker Carlson. That was back during the bow tie days, I believe.
He's lost the bow tie, but Tucker Carlson needs to have another comedian come on his show, please. But call out those dog whistles.
I thought he had comedians on the show.
Oh, it's not on Comedy Central. It's on what is supposed to be a news network.
Oh, Fox.
Sorry about. Yeah, well, we might disagree on that.
Also, interesting thing I found out the other day. A lot of other people probably know this. I'm probably just showing my ignorance here, but he started the Daily Caller. It sounds like
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, or he was part of it or something here. God, let me make sure.
I don't know. That I hadn't heard of. So that is news to me.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, founders Tucker Carlson and Neil Patel, whoever Neil Patel is.
Yeah, well, he probably wants that, swept under the rug, I imagine. Daily Caller doesn't have the highest respect in the journalism business, but...
Yeah, well, that's something I know that Tucker Carlson strives highly for. So, anyways, I dropped us a little bit off topic there. Do apologize.
Yep, we've got a format to stick to, but the intent of the show wasn't to duplicate the talking heads and the talking arguments that you see in... political commentary in a lot of places, and certainly there is room for disagreements, but that is not the center topic of the show.
Yeah, with that said, though, this is Montana Voices. If you'd like your Montana voice to be heard, do reach out.
All right, well, let's get into our topics for this week. Northwestern Energy has notified me, at least, that they intend to ask for a rate increase. Did you get that same mailer from Northwestern Energy?
I haven't seen it. I've just recently signed up for e-billing, and I'm hoping that they didn't use that as an excuse to not send me the notification.
Well, this only pertains to electric energy from them, so not gas, so not natural gas. So you have Energy West for natural gas in Great Falls, I believe, right?
Correct, Energy West, which is still the same company, weirdly. It's just like their offices are in separate geographical areas, I think is how they get away with it. One's just a little bit higher up. When I went through and signed up for e-bill, you can always, I'm trying to consolidate down my digital life here. So while signing up for that, I made sure to uncheck every box possible for email notifications, except for the absolute need-to-know things, such as when my bill is due. So I'm wondering if this is one of the things I opted out of them to talk to me about, which if is the case, I'm going to be a little disgruntled about. I know that eWest sent a bill, or not a bill. Yeah, no, it was with the bill back when I was still getting billed with them paper-wise, but they had sent one with a proposal like this, but it was for a rate increase of like 80% on the base utilities, I believe. And
80%?
Yeah,
Goodness.
this was I believe this is back when you were still living in town, and as I recall, the town went livid, and it didn't go through. So, maybe it seems like they dialed back and decided to go with a different area at 70% less, just, see if they would work out that way instead.
Well, that's good. We do have a PSC, a Public Service Commission. I got that one. It looks like it's asking for a bit under 10% for most people, which is a pretty big increase, 10% of your electricity bill. But Northwestern Energy appears to be fighting with the PSC again. Specifically, the guy in District 5, which represents your area, Travis Kavula, who I went to high school with back in Great Falls High.
Kavula versus everybody, I tell you.
It appears so. Kavula versus the PSC and versus Northwestern Energy. Northwestern Energy actually has a blog, but they appear to only pull out the credentials to try to trash talk Kavula, who compared the then they are scathing in this blog. They compared the PSC to undisciplined children, and it's a good read once you get there. That's northwesternenergy.com.
This sounds.
You could find it on there. It's a long link, but
I haven't checked yet, but I wonder. Have we looked to see if like KavulaSucks.com has been bought in yet?
should we buy that and hopefully
No,
we
I'm
can
just
fund
saying.
Montana Voices by selling it to Northwestern Energy?
Well,
I like your thinking.
It's very possible. If the Soros check doesn't come through this month, that may be a good way to keep the lights on with the server. However, I was going to say it's possible they might have already purchased it and it just redirects to this blog.
Well, I wouldn't put it past them. They use some pretty aggressive language in their blog posts, which is not what you usually see from a company anywhere.
Yeah, usually corporations are professional.
And usually they don't have blogs, but so they seem to say a lot of things in this blog. But something I see sort of mentioned as sort of a way to trash talk the PSC. Travis Kavula is a conservative and has always been that way since as long as I've known him, and we've sort of grown out of touch recently. But like I said, we went to high school and we worked together on the newspaper at Great Falls High. But he was the kind of guy that wore he tucked his shirt in and wore a tie and had a briefcase instead of a backpack that he wore to school. So he's always been a conservative, and I think Northwestern Energy is trying to paint him with a paintbrush that may not apply to him, saying that he is going to propose deregulation, which is a dirty word here in Montana.
Yeah, I don't see that coming from somebody who used to show up in a suit and tie to school. So...
Well, he took his schooling very seriously, and he is employed in an important government position, and I'm making a podcast in the middle of the night. So our decisions definitely affected who we became.
Well, let that just... we'll let those sleeping dogs lay,
So, but moving back to sort of these disagreements with Kavula, it looks like he was the only member of the PSC who voted against the Northwestern Energy's bid to reacquire the dams, which were previously, I think before 2003, owned by PPL. That's Pennsylvania Power and Light.
Correct.
Nowhere near here is all I need to know. So he was the only member that opposed that, and he was suggesting that, and still suggests, because it looks like they fight back and forth occasionally in the commentary section of newspapers, that Northwestern Energy was using the guaranteed profit that the rates that the PSC gives them as a way to make bets that are basically paid for by the Montanans through their electric bills. So he was a member against that, and looks like that's their beef with each other. And in other news, the credit rating of Northwestern Energy is actually going to be downgraded to underperform.
That's usually not a good sign to have. That does not give you the high ground in any fight, to have your credit score downgraded.
Which is strange, because a utility is usually a bedrock and a good company to invest in, but I'm not sure what statistics they put into that, that's Credit Suisse. I don't know if that means a Swiss company, but they're one of the main credit rating agencies out there that is doing that rating, and that of course is on the Northwestern Energy site because they have to publicly post these documents, being a regulated utility.
See, well, let that go to show how good regulations can be at times.
Well, they are good. When we deregulated, we saw our power or utility rates increase by 130% after Montana Power decided to lay fiber instead of being a utility company. So,
wow, bizarre and wild things that happen, I tell you. Anyways.
Well, now enough about utilities. Let's move on to our next topic of natives doing things.
Great to hear all the time.
We're going to talk about this, and then we're going to move into some somewhat sadder news on the same subject. But another Salish leader has been honored at a Pacific convention by, looks like Sophie Moise is honored in the courthouse and is now has her name to show as, they call her an influencer. I think that might be the native equivalent of community organizer, if I'm not mistaken.
I see.
And it is her granddaughter that's being honored there. That sort of ties us into our unfortunate thing of what appears to be a plague, and numbers are still incomplete on this. Some argue that we don't have a complete figure of what's really happening with the disappearances of natives, specifically Native women.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing when you start looking into it with the amount of documentaries and light that's being shed across the subject now with social media, with the much bigger presence now. The numbers just have seen a really big rise lately, it seems. And that is really, really disturbing to hear.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's on the rise or if they're just now that these figures are just being available and are actually accounted in some ways. Because law enforcement on the reservation is somewhat confusing to say the least. And I think we touched on it in a previous episode where, we were only talking about the tax record on the reservation, how the reservation owns the land but can't tax non-natives and etc. and doesn't pay Montana state taxes usually. And that is a very confusing issue. But it's the same thing with law enforcement, that there's a number of different agencies, and some of them that are, agnostic, if not just not caring, such as far as disappearances, murders, and those what's considered a federal crime, that's all handled by the FBI on the reservations, not the actual reservation law enforcement. So who is reporting these figures and where they're reporting them to has been an issue in the past.
Indeed. I wonder, because I don't think they even really have like an FBI office on a lot of the reservations here in the state.
They do not. They, in most of them, I've never seen one or worked with them. Most of them they do not. I wonder if they get to work from home if you're an FBI agent on the reservation. And the FBI is the main law enforcement for the reservation on the reservations for non-natives, since the reservation and tribes do not have the authority to enforce laws on non-natives even when they're on a reservation, which doesn't appear to make sense.
Really?
Yep, and there's also the BIA, which is a different agency entirely. Not the FBI, they're the BIA, but they are typically only used as law enforcement when the tribal law enforcement has some deficiencies.
I see. Is the BIA able to take care of business with non-native citizens?
They are a federal agency, so I believe so.
Yeah.
So if the BIA is present, there is, in fact, one law enforcement agency. But you get on the reservations and there's multiple agencies. Of course, your FBI is enforcing that. In a lot of places, they have, such as Lake County, they have a Lake County Sheriff's Office, which enforces laws on non-natives. And then there is the Tribal Police, which is for the natives. And fun fact, it is annoying, but if you should get pulled over on the reservation, specifically Lake County Reservation, and I am not a tribal member, so I get pulled over by a tribal cop for doing 90. It was some time ago, back when I used to speed, and basically I had to sit and wait because the tribal cop cannot cite me for a ticket. I sat and wait for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, whom never showed up, by the way, and 30 minutes later I was cut loose with a stern warning.
Wow. I was not aware of those terms. However, yeah, I guess that would make sense that they would just keep you there until the other guy can get there. Can you imagine, though, late at night, if you're blowing through Browning like that and you get stopped, and then someone gets called in from Cutbank, it sounds like.
Oh, man, you are getting the book thrown.
I was going to say, man, you were doing triple digits, you were spending the night.
That is reckless endangerment. Anything in the vehicle I should know about, sir?
Just give me your license right now. I'll just cut it up for you and save you the hassle.
So, Browning, is that Glacier County up there?
Yes.
Or is that...
That's Glacier County.
That is out of Cutbank, isn't it? My goodness.
Indeed.
So, I'm not sure if that's the same... I imagine that's the same relationship they have for the tribal police in Browning and the Glacier County police. So, sort of convoluted the way the enforcement and the tax things are put together. And I didn't have this on the list because I just saw this in the Missoulian, the actually Sunday print edition while I was buying groceries today. Wow. But it looks like that we discussed how the Salish Kootenai Confederated Tribes had decided, basically put an ad in the local paper in Polson saying, how much taxes they pay. And I just found out that Lake County is now going to try to, is revoking a privilege. I guess they were not taxing the tribe for county that they owned on the reservation. I don't fully understand it. I just read it while I was in line. And they are removing that privilege, and they intend to tax the tribe for tribal-owned properties, once again, on the reservation that are on Lake County land, that just seems like madness.
It's insane. I can't believe they're even able to do all that shit. We gave them the reservation specifically so we didn't have this kind of bullshit problems anymore. Like, why, like, seriously, like, taxing problems still? You fucking kidding me?
Well, I guess the term that the federal government uses is independent sovereign nation, and there's always been some contention of what exactly that means, and, more and more it seems like it's ending as nothing. It means
It sounds like
nothing.
a lot of lip service here if you're able to still be taxed for shit. Like, yeah. Anyways, regardless, the reason we got into that whole subject, native disappearances, it looks like there's a database that can be accessed for this that's been put together. It's going to be at mmiwdatabase.com. So I believe that stands for Montana Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Database. It's not like one that you can just go through and search right from here, but it looks like you can reach out to them and they can grant you access to it. And from there, if you're doing research or you're trying to look for someone specifically from that or help out, it looks like you can reach out to them and help that out. And then,
excellent, and that is a link that I think we were gonna, put up on our Facebook walls as well as some other info here. I think that'd be a good resource to have there.
indeed.
And some hunting news. Looks like the Fish and Game over here in Montana is looking to get into an automated online system, and there is a hearing on that matter. So we'll maybe post a link to that, and people can voice their concerns on that. It is nice that you can buy a game or fishing license even at your Walmart, if I would ever advocate going there. But yeah, maybe it gets even easier and we can do it online. But that would certainly be nice.
It would be. It would help people like not have to give up all the money on gas and whatnot to drive all the way down to their local Walmart or sports center of whatever sort they may have, to shell out all that money to just get disappointed when the tag they put in for it didn't get drawn.
Yeah, an online system for that would be great. And speaking of gas, there is some trouble with gas prices, because I thought Montana was a pretty low demand as far as it went for gas, but I'm surprised that our gas prices are still near $3 a gallon.
Yeah, I heard a whole lot of commotion about that, about it being under $2, and I hadn't been to the gas station myself in about a week and a half, so I went down there and saw number 3 before the period staring right back at me, and was a little confused on that. So it wasn't like I was going to not get gas. I still bought it, but begrudgingly so.
So you're still sitting at close to 3. Missoula is $2.79 last I looked.
That was, I should note on that, premium only for the new vehicle there.
Of course.
If you're looking for just unleaded, regular, it was like, I want to say maybe about $2.79. It was probably about what we were sitting at as well. But
well, listen to you, not knowing what the gas prices are here. So you and your fancy premium vehicle, $2.67 is what I'm seeing. It's the best at Sam's Club. So you're probably looking at $2.70 at
Sam's Club.
Non-membership gas stations.
I see. I have, I've got a membership at Sam's Club. I should probably go there sometime for my gas. Usually I hit up the Smiths because we go there for the groceries as well, so I'll get the fuel points.
Fuel points important. Apparently, Walmart, our main Walmart up on Reserve, is getting the gas pumps. I don't think they're operational yet because people keep on parking there. But that's coming. Walmart Gas. Understand that Great Falls already has a Walmart gas station?
We do. It's literally on the other side of town for me, so I never have been there. But if I ever happen to leave town on that side and need to stop for gas, then maybe I'll give it a shot. Chances are very unlikely, though.
Yeah, don't drive anywhere for lower gas prices. If you do the math, say you have a 10-gallon tank, even if you're saving 10 cents a gallon, which is unheard of, that's still only $1 that you've saved for in exchange for your time and your fuel for driving, of course, to across town.
Just not worth it.
Well, there's no good segue into our next topic of breastfeeding. I was trying to think of one to get us right into that from gas,
Well,
but
a lot of people consider it an elephant in the room for whatever reason to begin with, so you might as well.
Is it an elephant in the room? That's sort of the question I
Well,
wanted to
yeah,
ask.
that's what I was going to say. For a lot of people, it appears to be. People who don't have children or don't like children for whatever reason seem to be weirded out by it. A lot of people, I've never seen anyone who is a parent be like, "Oh, God, put it away, lady."
Yeah, and I see sort of an outreach, especially on social media, with people, trying to make a point of not brazenly showing breasts and such, and saying they support breastfeeding. But I've never thought of it as anything that shouldn't be done anywhere. And apparently, if you go back historically, I mean, people were in the early 1900s. They were breastfeeding in church, right in the middle. There's pictures of it because it's a completely normal, natural thing. So.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out when the shift was that ended up being a weird thing that was not cool.
Is there an opposition to this? I've never seen anybody oppose it.
Well, that's the thing, too, is I hear about it a lot. You'll see a lot of women put up, like, Facebook posts, and that'll go viral on the sites that are getting reposted, a ton of times, and then it finally gets to you, and it always blows my mind too, because it's like they've been thrown out of a JCPenney because they were breastfeeding and they were sitting outside of the changing area or whatever, and I've never seen anything like that ever happen before. But I just can't imagine anybody in their right minds that would witness that would not speak up and say something to the employee about that.
Well, it might be a fireable offense. We live in that reaction age, but I guess Montana Voices has taken a stance, and unfortunately for our listeners, me and Bryce agree in support of breastfeeding.
Indeed, if that's the only agreement we have this episode, then I am glad it's on that as opposed to anything else here.
Well, moving on to coal bonuses, the Westmoreland Coal Company out of Colorado, which of course operates the mine outside of Coal Strip. What do they call it? The Bear something mine? Or I don't recall, but it looks like they are asking for permission, and they're in bankruptcy, so they do have to ask to give their executives bonuses.
Because they've worked so hard and done such a great job for their workers.
Well, they did try to justify it by saying that they needed to keep these people, and the future of the company was dependent on them staying. But if the company's in dire straits, there was the same outcry when GM did this, when they got federal money and then gave out bonuses to their top execs. Got to keep those guys.
I believe this literally just happened with Toys R Us as well. When they declared bankruptcy, they gave out a huge payout to the top guys. And I think their severance for the workers was very low, like triple digits.
Oh, geez. Work for Toys R Us for all your life. And, you can say the same thing for Sears. I know quite a few people that worked and managed the Sears thing and, sort of left with nothing.
Yeah. Geez, thanks, Amazon.
You can't blame Amazon for everything. Changing tastes, management.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, just about. I'd say a good 40% of the things I'm looking at right now on this desk are probably purchased on Amazon, so I'll keep my mouth shut for this time. Anyways, I don't know that they necessarily need to give them that big of a bonus. They say that they're crucial to the future of the company, but wouldn't you say the workers are equally as crucial? It's a mess there. I don't know. I'm no coal executive. I don't know how that business runs.
Apparently neither do we. So, but that mine does the a clean coal for coal strip, which last I knew only had was it 2 out of 3 of the burners actually running, or somewhere around there. They're not at full capacity, and they're on the verge of shutting down another one. Either changing tides or
I see.
EPA.
Well, I hope they.
This should be the time for coal. I don't know why
I thought the war
not
was
so
over.
Yeah, the war on coal is should be over, but I guess not. Promises kept, Bryce. Promises kept.
No doubt. Well, I hope they at least kept the clean ones turned on.
Well, maybe they shut down the Billings one. There was one, I guess, sort of across the road and in between 2 separate refineries in Billings. Definitely a clean place, I think. And
It's crazy how big it got in Billings. I remember it had been years since I had been there, and then when I finally went back to see how big the industry area over there got, it was booming. So to hear that it's closing down like that's very startling. A lot of lost jobs there.
well, I don't know how many jobs were actually lost from the Billings electric plant being shut down. I'm just unsure how many people work there, but that one is not operational. I actually used to live in a house below it, which might have been the best spot because of you got those big smokestacks that it goes up. It's probably the cleanest spot in all of Billings at the time.
I'm not sure what the numbers are on that. I'll have to ask Richard. I know he said that living near a coal plant like that, your chances of getting some sort of cancer were higher. However, those were, probably stats gathered back before clean coal had been enacted. So it's hard to say on what numbers around the Billings and coal strip ones would be.
Well, I am not sure, but apparently it sounds like they're on the verge. They're right at the edge of what can be clean coal, and it's always a fight. So, I just don't think the future's in coal, and we're beating this horse for all we can.
For certain. One thing I will commend coal strip on is how clean they keep that town. Anytime I drive through, it's always pristine. Grass is cut, hedged, Even the subway's clean.
Oh man, even the subway. There's a images to uphold. If it's a dirty town, people will think it's because of the coal, I guess.
Yeah, you probably don't get as much cleanliness from, like the Judith Gap wind farm or so, but it's not really an area that you can go on a stroll through, so there's not as much upkeep needed. So, plus there.
Speaking of Judith Gap, and there's also that newer development outside of Harlowtown. So if you're driving from Billings to Great Falls, you have the Judith Gap wind farm that's been there for, 15, 20 years maybe? It's been there for a while. And there's some new turbines up on the Billings side of Harlowton. Not town. I won't say it wrong. It's Harlowton. But an odd fact about that, I found this when I was researching the Montana Power and Northwestern Energy debacle that happened in the late 90s, is that all that power is shipped to Canada. It's none of it is used here locally because Northwestern Energy is currently in a fight with the PSC regarding the purchasing of renewable energy, which they are supposed to do, but apparently are not.
Wow, that blows my mind. So they sell it off to Canada. We need to get an industry expert with the power industry on here, Jim, to ask them about that and how the grid works, because it blows my mind that they sell it to Canada. Do they have just like all of those on a couple of transmission lines that just shoot straight up across the border?
Yeah, it just blows my mind that it's cheaper to get it, that far and across the border. There's got to be a tariff for that, I assume, of some sort. We're in a trade war. So.
And is there any loss on that power?
Yeah, I guess for long range, 8% loss.
Wow. And it's still cheaper for them somehow.
Still cheaper somehow, mainly because Northwestern Energy does not want to buy it.
Well, supply and demand is what we're always told, right?
Yeah, supply and demand, and that was sort of the big thing with deregulation is we were going to have a choice with who we bought our electricity from. and that never happened. So, yeah, we eventually went back to regulation 2005, I think.
Not before 2000, maybe it was before 2005. I remember at one point seeing some sort of weird ads for like a Montana Gas or some sort of weird offshoot company. It was supposed to be like a secondary utility company you could get your services through. And all I could think is like, wow, are they going to hook up a secondary gas line to my house? Like that doesn't sound very viable considering the grid's already laid for the entire fucking town. So...
Yeah, I recall seeing that ad as well, and I can't remember where it was or the name of it.
It died pretty quick.
Yeah, it might have. I wonder if that would be like they do in a lot of Europe, is the municipality lays fiber or whatever network to your home and all the homes at their own expense, and then a ISP. All they have to do is pay a service charge to them, and then they get a backhaul to your home. So maybe it's a similar thing where they pay, Northwestern Energy for use on the line, but it's their gas, which, it doesn't seem like it would make any sense. But
yeah, either that or they're just reselling the gas to you through Northwestern Energy that delivers the gas to your pipe still. I mean, we're talking some real local exchange carrier crazy negotiations here. I can see why it fell through so quickly, if that's the case. I mean, we're talking about a fossil fuel here they're trying to control. This isn't a packet, so it doesn't work the same way that you'd be able to do that with internet through a European municipality.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're not going to disconnect the pipe at the colo or head end and connect it to your pump instead. That's assumably not the way that works. But to back up for most of our listeners who are not in the same industry we are in, there is a possibility as far as internet and communications for a company or a person to purchase. I guess we call it a leased line almost. You buy access to the line and then connect your equipment at their shack or wherever, and then the end user's side. And so essentially you're just using their line, whether it be a fiber or copper, out to the site, and it goes on your network. So that probably would be different. I imagine it's nowhere near the same.
Yeah. Geez. Talk about a mess.
It is, or maybe they were hoping to get suddenly big so they can barter better bulk prices through Northwestern Energy or whatnot. So
yeah,
we do really need an energy expert on here, because another fact that I think you'll be equally astonished at was the fact that Montana produces more natural gases that it consumes, not by much, but a little bit. But all that gas is sold to the West Coast, and we buy from Pennsylvania.
That should, I mean, is it ever? I hope everyone else listening is as enraged as I am hearing that information.
We keeping those pipelines busy, I guess. So our cheap natural gas gets sold to the West, and we buy open market Pennsylvania natural gas. Well, once again, PPL always has their hand in it, but
I'm ready to just make my house freeze tonight out of disgust of this information. Anyways, if you're a industry-leading expert on the power utilities of Montana and you're a listener, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you on.
Well, absolutely, and maybe we'll send, as we get bigger, we can certainly get people that are more interesting on. I'm not above emailing or trying to call. Even Travis Kavula appears to be the only person that butts heads with Northwestern Energy. See if he remembers me, and if he does, try to make him forget me. That kid with the red hair and the spikes, why do I want to be on his show? But
well, you never know.
Times have changed.
Does he have? We asked earlier if KavulaSucks.com was registered. I wonder if NorthwesternEnergySucks.com is registered, because if he doesn't have his own blog, shit talking these. I mean, I guess he really can't because he's the public service commissioner. However, I think
But he does it in editorials, and quite a few of them, or more than one, have been in the Montana Standard out of Butte, which seems they of course have a probably higher interest in energy than other places for considering their history.
Yeah.
So he's essentially been using that as a blog whenever he wants to, I guess, talk crap on Northwestern Energy. He does it through the official print methods.
That's probably the classiest method to go. With a couple interviews that I had seen from him on KRTV and KFBB, it seemed like he had a pretty good method of laying the record down with them in a respectable manner, I guess you could say.
Well, the man has tact.
Yeah.
And he does have a briefcase.
He does have a briefcase.
Yeah, more tact than us. So
I don't have a briefcase.
Yeah, maybe you do.
I
All
don't.
right. Well, mixers and microphones. It's not best in a briefcase, but maybe we can get somebody with more knowledge on this in the future on. But some more bad news here. A Missoula shooting. It looked like just the last couple of days here. Was it officer-assisted suicide that I saw?
I don't know about officer-assisted suicide here. Let me take a look and see what the motives were on it. Anyways, the officer involved on this was a fella I went to high school with back in the day. He was a really great guy every time I knew him, so I was pretty saddened to hear that he had to be involved with something like this. It's pretty traumatic for anyone to have to go through something like that, so hopefully they are able to get him back out there and back to work soon, because that's some pretty rough shit to go through.
Is it like on the TV shows where they, automatically get administrative leave and get to, seek counseling before they go back? Obviously a traumatic event, and maybe something else that we're going to agree on Blue Lives here.
Indeed. Yeah, no, in this regard too specifically, like, I don't know, it's a scary job to be in, so I can't thank anyone enough for taking that kind of a job, because I know I would sure be terrified every night on shift for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, take the blue, and it's different in Montana. I mean, we somewhat isolated, don't have a lot of the issues that other areas are definitely feeling with, of course, Black lives and others who are seemingly at odds with the police. But it's, like I said, different here, and I think we have a different police force, and the men and women out there, a number of which I know, and some of friends and I go to church with, is deep respect for what they do for us. But I guess I will affront it by saying that I recognize that our police forces here in Montana are not plagued with the same issues that others are around the country.
Yeah, that's something that I think we as a state can be pretty proud of. Even with everything we've seen in all of these other states over the past few years here since, I don't even know when Black Lives Matter started up and originated, but we haven't had like one huge story come out of Montana really in that regard of there being anything involving officers in a negative aspect. So, everything here is, I don't know.
So I'm going to run to demographics, I suppose, because some people might suggest that it's because we have less minorities here in Montana.
We also have less people, period, as well, so that's also worth noting.
Less people, but Black specifically, I think they're somewhere around 10%. I think we're a little bit below the national average, but they're certainly still here. And we've actually, that has increased, so maybe in the next census that comes out, we'll see that. Because I think everywhere I've gone, I've seen transplants from New Orleans after the, of course, hurricane and flood that happened. So those numbers might be reflected in the coming up census, which 2020? Or I'm not sure, but every 10 years, of course.
Yeah, I believe 2020 is the next one. I'm not sure. Jeez, I got to fill it out this time.
They will find you. Now, there was and you have to do the census. When I was younger, I think Probably the. No, I think it's mid. I don't remember, but I was a kid and I toured with my dad who took on some summer work doing the census in very rural Montana, and so we got to drive around in a little tiny Mazda truck and another Mazda that I own currently, same vintage, but you can't avoid them. He had to try to track people down regardless of how much they hated him or the government. He's like, great, you have a shotgun, but how many people live here?
That sounds like Montana there. I just need to know 3 or 4. 3 or 4, dude.
3 or 4, and I assume they're all white because you hate the government. It seems like that demographic. Oh, speaking of areas in the middle of nowhere, Glasgow was featured on CBS News earlier this year.
Big reps to Glasgow.
Specifically for being the middle of nowhere, because it's apparently further from any metropolitan area than anywhere else in the country.
Boy, does it sure feel like it when you have to drive there.
It's only 8 hours for you, Bryce. But
Yeah, no, once you get there, it's worth stopping in to get a good bite to eat and then getting some good sleep. I'm trying to think. Where do you usually go at Glasgow when you stop in?
Oh, man. McDonald's? Because you can always count on McDonald's being the same and not any worse than usual.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate their consistency. Even McDonald's in Glasgow feels like our metropolitan Barbie McDonald's here in Missoula. So.
Indeed. I will say Eugene's Pizza in Glasgow, Montana, top notch. If you are in Glasgow, make sure you stop by. If you live there, you probably go there a lot because it's really good. There's also the Dynasty Chinese restaurant that's also pretty killer.
Dynasty Chinese. Some things for me to check out next time I'm there. And for the listeners that don't know, me and Bryce spend a lot of our working hours, that is work that actually pays us money, touring the state doing various tasks. So this last week I got to go, I was in Billings before that, went up north from Missoula to the Libby area where I found a Best Burger, which the burger was merely okay, but it looks like it is a new establishment, and it's nice to see some life in Libby.
Is that a franchise or is that a local shop?
I believe it was local.
Oh, well.
Not 100% on that, but it was better than the McDonald's.
If it's local, then that possibly could just be a title of locally best burger then, too. You never know.
Well, very much. Well, it's a long drive to get anything better.
Indeed. But, I don't know. I will definitely give that a shot next time I'm in Libby now.
So, where do your travels take you this week, Bryce?
I'm hoping to my desk and then back to my house, and not very far in between. This last week I went to Helena. I ended up just going to the Subway. I didn't really hit up any local shops, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunate. I guess our local business shout-out will be Best Burger in Libby.
Indeed. Best Burger in Libby, Eugene's Pizza in Glasgow. If you're going to hit up any shops there, then those would be the ones to go. One's on one side of the state, one's on the other, so I'd say that's pretty good. Pretty good coverage of them.
And if you're in Billings, Burger Dive. Best burger, maybe in the country.
Indeed. I'm craving that now. I had a Roadhouse this weekend. I'm gonna have to hit up the Burger Dive next time we hit Billings.
Well, absolutely. Well, that does conclude episode 9 of Montana Voices, and let's go through our matters of business one more time so everyone knows where to reach us, and then we'll get this one in the books.
Indeed. And real quick, just to let everyone know, local events coming up here this Friday, starting at 5 p.m. here in Great Falls, we have the downtown Christmas stroll. So if you want to come down and hang out, shop at the local shops that we have down there, and grab some hot cocoa, and potentially see people you know and like, and people you don't want to run into if you have social anxiety and you don't want to be out, and it's going to be cold as well. So keep all that in mind and come or not. So yeah,
Absolutely. And the shops are staying open past 5:30, which is another comment that was left in one of our shares. Everything closes at 5:30 in Great Falls downtown.
not that night, my friend. They are keeping things turned 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. is the times listed here on their official Facebook event. So with that in mind, then, let's go ahead and keep it rolling here with our business information. If you would like to listen to our podcast at all or check into our information, it's going to be at montanavoicespodcast.com. If you'd like to reach out to us at email, it's going to be montanavoices@gmail.com. If you'd like to see our Twitter, that will be at Montana_voices. Our Facebook will be at Montana Voices Podcast. Our Twitch, which I'm hoping to have something up this week on, is going to be twitch.tv/Montana Voices. And you can find us at YouTube now at Montana Voices Podcast.